Base is dropped on another week of soccer down here, and you know this is what happens. That's a Monday. That's a Monday kind of a thing where you're sitting there and you're looking at your sequence and you're going, I knew I forgot to do something, and I forgot to remember to pull the cover slide because that means that you can actually see me and Abe talking so the show can start on a Monday. Happy Monday. Welcome to Monday. That was a very Monday thing. So no dilly, no dally zone. Abe's joining us here before he heads up to training camp to go hang out with the Falcons. And we're going to bat lead off this way for the next couple of weeks because there's something called training camp and something called the National Football League. Abe, it just wasn't good enough yesterday.
No, and it's disappointing because it's an incredibly beatable team in Santos Laguna. I mean, I saw a couple of tweets that says Atlanta United got eliminated out of Leagues Cup yesterday by potentially the worst club in all of North America in terms of top flight soccer. And I'm not going to sit here and break down where they rank overall among the 47 teams or however many it was that took part in Leagues Cup. But I think you get the point. This was about as bad as it can be from a variety of ways. You start with what is Leagues Cup. It is an incredibly forgiving format where 2 out of every 3 teams in each group will advance. You were arguably the best team in your group. DC United is no big bad wolf out there, and then Santos as well. You benefited by having both of your matches at home. I mean, it was all lined up for you to, if not win your group, at least advance. And unfortunately, you can't do that. The games look differently. Obviously, a little bit of a battle back to get level with DC United. You lose the shootout. And just very listless, and you lose the shootout again yesterday, and are eliminated. So just very disappointing. On the bright side, if there is one, you now have 3 weeks off to prepare for the last 9 games of the MLS season and a push for the playoffs. And do not get it twisted. As disappointed, as frustrated as fans might be, this is going to be a push for the playoffs. I mean, they are right where they need to be. They are hopefully going to have some additional firepower when they do get to that game. And right now it's scheduled for August 24th against the LA Galaxy. I know depending on how Leagues Cup plays out for them, that date could change. That game could move. But look, you got 3 weeks. You're hopefully bringing in Alexi Moranchuk to be available by then and see what happens because you got 9 games to solidify your playoff spot. And look, just like any sport, man, once you get in there, anything can happen. You push the eventual champions to that third and deciding game last year in that first series with Columbus. So just get in and see what happens, and then we'll also see how the rest of the transfer window looks.
And at the same time, I think that yesterday, as the way that it goes after every match, but it's a little different in a Leagues Cup format. You get mixed zone instead of locker room, and I think that one of the telling interviews from yesterday was Dax McCarty.
Yeah.
And Dax was not holding back. He never has been, first and foremost. But to hear Dax McCarty's frustration, it's a frustration inside of a locker room. It's a frustration that we've seen when Atlanta United released the video late in the Gonzalo Pineda administration where you got to see inside the locker room after Cincinnati. But Dax is also coming from the perspective of a longtime MLS veteran whose participation clock is winding down. And he came here sensing an opportunity, and that opportunity has not been there for him this year so far. So Dax was he flat out just was not happy and let everybody know about it yesterday.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. It's good that he's upset and frustrated and wants to attack this head on. I'd be a lot more concerned if it was, ho-hum, another loss. What will we do now? I want to see him fired up. And I think you could it came out a little differently, but I think you could sense that from Rob Valentino in his post-match presser. There was a lot of, all right, man, like that's in the past. We are moving on. That was a blank show, and it is time to focus on. And he was all about business. And there's no looking at what we did wrong, what we should have done differently. He's like, all right, we got to get it corrected. We got to get it corrected now because we need to do something in these last 9 games. And again, that's the right mindset to me. You're not going to sit and cry over the spilled milk of an embarrassing performance over Leagues Cup, but what you can do is say, hey, we've beat Miami on the road. We beat Columbus here at home. Our first match potentially is going to be against the LA Galaxy, who's one of the best teams in the MLS. Let's go show them. You want to start these 9-game MLS run into the playoffs the right way? Start it with doing that. And look, there's been 2 times where I've looked at the schedule and said, I don't expect any results out of Atlanta United today. Those 2 times they've gotten results. And so, Mike Conley and Jason Longshore summed it up quite well yesterday. There's this incredible ability to play up to the level of your opponent, but unfortunately, there's also the side where you're playing down to the level of your opponent, and you've got to figure it out. There is a best of Atlanta United. You have to figure out how to bring out the best more often, right? We've seen it. We've seen it from time to time, but we have also seen the worst of Atlanta United equally as much. And I think that's what Rob Valentino's task is. And look, I know there's this open job sitting there. If Rob Valentino wants to snag this job over these last 9 games, the task for him is find out how to get United to bring out their best more often and keep that worst somewhere else. That has not been the case. It's been so off and on. They have got to find more consistency. You hoping Alexei Miranchuk can bring you that. Last night was another example of the left side just giving you nothing. And we've been dealing with this, John, the entire season. They've tried everything. They put Caleb Wiley up there for a match. They moved Thiago Almada out there for a match. They switched Saba to the left side to see if that would jumpstart it. We've seen pretty much everything. They've got to get more from that position specifically. We'll see if maybe that's where Garth Lagerwey heads if an additional player is added in a transfer window. But, yeah, you want to see guys like Dax McCarty upset. You need to see the leaders of this team upset. Again, I would be much more troubled if the mindset was out of Leagues Cup, 3 weeks off, let's go party.
Yeah.
That's what they were showcasing last night. And if nothing else, I know some of the fans maybe have checked out on the season. The players have not. I think we've seen that all the way through.
And I think that that's an important thing to look at here is that you mentioned that the players have not checked out. And you could tell if the players have checked out in a situation. And what we've been able to look at with Atlanta United this season is opportunities for the younger players, the ones that are coming up from the 2s. And Matthew Edwards got the chance because we know that Pedro Amador is still getting 90 minutes fit. And over there to help out on the left-hand side, Matthew Edwards getting key minutes in a match that is an elimination game. So Matthew Edwards gets 20 minutes. Jay Fortune continues to get starts there in the midfield. So you're seeing the younger players that are part of the future for Atlanta United getting those minutes in these matches to show, hey, I'm worthy of what you're giving me here Monday through Friday. You're getting that on a Sunday afternoon. And so there are other elements of this that are hopefully adding to the future for Atlanta United, not just purchasing folks.
Well, and I feel like this happens every offseason. Like we come back for the first game and I'm like, man, how many new players do they have? Like it always feels like it's not that much turnover. But then you look at the roster and you're like, oh, they have like 5 new starters this year. That's like half the team almost. And look, we may see that again next year. It might be, though, with some of the young players that you're talking about. It might be sending some guys out, bringing a couple guys in, but it might not be, to use a baseball term, calling guys up as the other aspect of this. And yeah, look, Jay Fortune has done everything you've asked for him because, and Rob Valentino mentioned this yesterday, you've not asked Jay Fortune to be Thiago Almada. You need the best version of Jay Fortune, and I think he's coming pretty darn close to that right now. And you got a couple of young guys you need to ask a little more from. We talk about issues on the left side. All right, so what can Luke Brennan give you, right? That's the first name that comes to mind, and we see all the flash and the danger. But the scoring opportunities, the chances haven't exactly matched some of the highlights. And so he needs to be better there. If he is, I think he starts to get some play time. Same thing from a recovering Tyler Wolf, who has put in some good work with the twos as he works his way back. But Matt Edwards was the one guy I was interested because, as you mentioned, we were pretty sure Pedro Amador was getting the start due to the Ronald Hernandez injury, which is a horribly unfortunate, especially with the form that he had come to see in the past couple of weeks. But that's part of the game. Injuries happen. Pedro Amador, look, a little bit of luck on this one, right? Because you pulled Pedro Amador into this club assuming you were going to lose Caleb Wiley. And the timing just happened to be there where you had him, you had the depth there. And then when Hernandez goes down, you had a plan in place. But you did know, as you mentioned, not going to be 90 minutes fit there. And so the question was, are you going to, slide Luis Abram out wide and maybe bring Derek Williams off the bench late, something like that? Or are you going to use, you could take a chance with Mosquera back there, but we kind of didn't really want to go there if we didn't have to. But the other option was Matt Edwards. And so it was nice to see him not just get the call, but like be relied upon, like have a role. They talked about it going into this game. I'm sure they discussed, hey, Matt, Pedro's not going to play all 90. We're going to need you. Count on it. And he was ready and he came in and you didn't really notice any drop off, any difference. So it is nice to see them. He's one of the guys I'd look forward to seeing a lot more of next season, if not here and there the rest of the season.
All right. So you're heading to Falcons training camp. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Just no injuries. Like that's honestly, that's the biggest thing right now. They're heading to Miami for joint practices. They're not going to show you too much in practice, but there's a little bit of here and there, a couple small position battles, a quarterback zip, stuff like that. Nothing crazy, but they have been incredibly lucky with injury so far. They got a couple guys coming off of injury, but you look around to the other 31 teams in training camp right now. They got carts rolling back and forth every single day. We have not seen one for Atlanta, the Falcons, and I am just hoping that it can stay that way because it has the potential this year to be a very special season.
All right, looking forward to it. Just be safe getting up to the branch. Stay as hydrated as possible. Stay covered, and we'll catch up with you next time, my friend. Thanks for dropping by.
You got it, John. We'll see you next week.
And there you go. So that's our conversation with Abe to kick things off on a Monday. And I'm just with one of you in the Twitch pitch, I'll just go ahead and line it up.
So what do you guys want to talk about?
There you go. All right, so it's on the table, and we do have another couple of pieces of sound from yesterday. You guys have been doing a great start with letting everybody know what's on your mind, and the conversation's been really good this morning in the Twitch pitch. So two other interviews that I wanted to get into, and they're audio only. And the first one was one of the conversations that we got to have yesterday with Matthew Edwards. And it was, I made the point to ask Rob Valentino in the press conference about the post-match press conference about Matthew Edwards. And with what we've been able to see from Matt in his time with Atlanta United 2 and earning the minutes that he's been earning. So Matt comes through in the mixed zone format. It's like I said, in these kinds of tournaments, it's a mixed zone. So basically you're up against the fence line with a backdrop and you're hoping that you can grab folks as they come buzzing past. And so here's the conversation that we had with Matt Edwards yesterday. It starts off with me and then it ends up being with me and Maddie. So here's the conversation that we had with Matt Edwards after the match last night, where Atlanta United got bounced from Leagues Cup, losing in the penalty kick shootout to Santos Laguna.
Matt, real quick. All right, so what's it been like to see the confidence of the coaching staff to give you these first team minutes, practice with the first team, and then be out there on a match like today?
It definitely is a confidence booster for me. You obviously dream of playing in MLS and playing with the MLS team. Definitely lots I need to work on, but they're giving me confidence day in and day out and helping me get there and try to reach my potential or reach my dreams.
Okay, so what do you think you still need to work on a daily basis like this?
Just confidence on the ball, a little bit of defensive actions I need to work on, but I think I'm getting there. It's first year here, first year as a pro, so a lot of improvements I need to make, but I'm slowly making them.
So the conversation happens, say, 25 minutes to go in the match. They tap you on the shoulder. What's that conversation like out there?
I mean, I kind of prepared coming in, knowing that I might have played, but just the conversation we have is just do your best, try your hardest, and that's the most you can do. And that's kind of the motto I live by too: is just try your hardest, run your hardest, and that's all you can do.
So what was it like out there for you in that 20 minutes? What were you seeing?
It was an intense game. I mean, a lot on the line, especially the last 20 minutes. Both sides going back and forth. So, just my whole thing was just don't make a mistake and try to do the best you can.
What have you, your time with the Twos, being captain there? How has that training helped you for a level like this, getting the chance to come into the League Cup and make a big impact the way you did?
Just trying to focus on my leadership skills, knowing that I prepared for this the correct way, and knowing that I was prepared for this moment, and then just trying to do the best I could. All the momentum I built from the Twos coming in that's all you can do. Do the best you can. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
That's the conversation we had with Matt Edwards in the receiving line for Mixed Zone for Leagues Cup. One more conversation that we had that you didn't get the chance to hear yesterday on the Full-Time Report, where you got to hear from Josh Cohen, you got to hear from Jay Fortune, got to hear from Dax McCarty and Rob Valentino. Here's the conversation that we had with Bartosz Slisz. And Bart was given the armband yesterday. And it's a great vote of confidence from Rob Valentino and the coaching staff that Bartosz Slisz got to wear the armband yesterday and had to try and have conversations with Ivan Bartone. Here's the conversation that we had with Bartosz Slisz, Mixed Zone, yesterday.
I appreciate that I had this opportunity to become the captain, and it's really pleasure for me because I'm like half year here in Atlanta, and like I said, I appreciate it.
What do you think the team needs to do now in this break to come back strong into the MLS tournament?
I think fresh our mindset, because it was a tough moment, but now we have 3 weeks, let's say, off to next game, and we have to prepare very good because we have still 9 games in the league, and we're gonna fight until the end for the playoffs, and I swear that we're gonna give everything to play these playoffs, and it will be our target.
What has it been like to have you, Fortune, Wayamba, having that sort of trio in the midfield as well, getting to know each other, and then growing a bit more bit by bit as the games go on?
Yeah, I think it's also the new situation, because I'm playing a little bit higher, like number 10, and Adriani is also a young player. For him, it's like, let's say, first season in the MLS, and we have to be together, support each other, and like I said, we have to fight until the end. That's it.
You were brought into this team to be a little bit more of a defensive midfielder, and you just talked about how you're playing kind of more advanced. Have you liked that role a little bit better? How do you feel in that role?
It's the new role for me, and because like whole life I played on the defensive midfielder, and but I feel let's say very comfortable in this position, and I try to give everything for the team. Also, I learned this position because it's huge difference between the defense midfielder and offense midfielder. So it's not easy sometimes, but I think I adjust as soon as possible, and that's it. And I hope next game we're gonna win, and we're gonna play these playoffs, because for me it's very important.
Thank you, Bartek.
Thank you. So?
Bart Slisz in the Mixed Zone after the match. And so that's all of the sound and the folks that stopped by yesterday to let us know what was going on in the Mixed Zone after Atlanta United got bounced from Leagues Cup. Obviously, we'll go over the rest of the Leagues Cup results. A lot of matches tonight to determine who's going into the round of 32 to join Club America and Columbus Crew. We'll get into that. We'll get into all of the news of the weekend. And like I said, traditionally at 10 o'clock, Bart is joining us for reffing down here and discussing things with the men's national team, the women's national team, and the U20s. I got to get into him with the U20s yesterday. And what happened with the United States in a 1-goal. They had a 1-0 lead, and then you end up with a goal in the 96th minute, 97th minute, when you're only supposed to have 5 on the board. And then another goal by Mexico in the 121st minute gives the Mexico U20s the win in the tournament over the United States. So we'll get into that the next time Bart's in. I think it's at 10 o'clock. I'm not sure. Like I said, I sent a note. Traditionally what I do is I send a note out early in the morning, and it's like, okay, I know that today is traditionally the day when folks get to hop in and things like that. But with Bart, because Bart has a real world job, and he was in Vegas last week, and then after Vegas, he was at Fido and was with the massive humanity that was at Fido getting ready for that particular match. I don't know if the real world's going to allow Bart to come in and hang out with us for 10 o'clock. If he does, that's cool, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about with Bart. But we'll see. This is almost like Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Bart Keeler? And can he come and hang out at 10 o'clock? And so traditionally that's where we are. But I know that you guys are off and running this morning in the Twitch pitch. And, that's why the Twitch pitch is here, is to have these kinds of conversations and to let everybody say what's on their mind coming into the morning after Atlanta United got bounced from Leagues Cup yesterday in the penalty kick shootout 5-3. And now they have a couple of weeks to regroup and get ready for the matchup against LAG, supposedly in the 24th. But once again, if Leagues Cup is continuing, then does it get pushed back a day? Does it get pushed back to midweek or something like that? Obviously, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with scheduling as everybody comes out the other side of MLS Cup and gets back, Leagues Cup, and gets back into the MLS home stretch schedule there with the last 9 after the fact. So, morning, Alex. Morning, Derek. Morning, Unk. Morning, Michael. Morning, Will. And I full disclosure, Will putting that in the Twitch pitch was why I dropped the Cody Rhodes reference this morning. I point my finger at Will for giving that to me. Let's see. So morning, Michael. Morning, Unk. Morning, Derek. Morning, 4Card. Morning, Will. Morning, Bart. Morning, Unk. Let's see. Who else am I? Morning, Emilio. Let's see. I think that's everybody. I think that's everyone. Let's see. I'm trying to sit here and see if I've missed anybody who is. Oh, morning, Nick Fadley. Oh, good morning, Nick. Morning, Pars. And let's see. Morning, Ropes. As morning, David. And so there we go. All right, so that's the morning and what you guys have been discussing. Unk, definitely morning. Not sure about good. Unk doesn't think the 3 weeks off is going to do a thing to help the team. Let's see. Michael, obviously disappointed in the process. You're not, and what's been going on. You're not alone. Unk says you need more than frustration from the team. They've been frustrated all season. Derek, with everything that's happened, Dax has to feel hard done. Let's see. Michael, here's a big problem. All the players beside Gazan only know losing at Atlanta United. As far as they know, we're a middling to losing franchise. Let's see. 4 cards should have been the mindset 2 months ago. Let's see. Rob doesn't think that 4Card doesn't think that Rob will be head coach. Like I said, we don't know yet. Season's not over. Let's see. Let's see. Unk. I'm trying to see. Michael, to the players, we have a losing culture. 1 playoff win since 2019. That's bad. No sugarcoating. That's a bad franchise. Let's see. I'm trying to scan through the comments this morning, and let's see what's. Emilio says going to be contrarian. 21 and 23 wasn't miserable. Those seasons happened, not counting 20 and 22. This year's unacceptable. Will is saying Abe's far too positive with all of this. And Michael was at the match yesterday, lowest non-COVID attendance at MBS as it should have been. And what I'd like to know, and I'm kind of have to find the empirical evidence for this, is find out what the attendance figures are for most of these matches in Leagues Cup. I've got to figure out and find out where these attendance figures are when it comes to Leagues Cup outside of matches that are part of season ticket packages and things like that. So that's a question that I have when it comes to Leagues Cup. And remember that this is the second year of a tournament that has been pushed into the MLS schedule. So I'm intrigued now. I got to write that down. So I've got to write down where, I want to knock things over, but I want to find out what the attendance figures are across the board for Leagues Cup. So attendance numbers, Leagues Cup. Thank you for reminding me of that so I can look up those numbers as we go, because I just want to see. I want to see what, and I know that the tickets sold versus actual attendance are going to be two different things. And so I guess I should probably sit there and say, okay, tickets sold versus, and I don't know if we're going to get any kind of a turnstile number from each and every venue, but tickets sold is probably the number that I'm going to be getting when it comes to all of this. The team should be ashamed of where it's at, chasing trophies to being a bottom feeder. I don't think they're a bottom feeder. There are teams that are worse in Major League Soccer. There are teams that are definitely worse in Major League Soccer. Those are the bottom feeders. Atlanta United is not a bottom feeder. Michael saying maybe the front office will get the message. Fans aren't pleased. Let's see. Will says he loves the community, but he can't with the everything is awesome mindset. Everything is not. I have not been of the everything is awesome mindset. I mean, look, how did I start the interview off this morning with Abe? I said it wasn't good enough. Bottom line, wasn't good enough. And in the post, in the full-time report, you're seeing a team once again that seems to want to that has had moments this season where you play up to the level of competition, and then you have moments like yesterday where you play down to the level of competition. Matches like yesterday are the ones where you're supposed to put teams like that away, and you didn't. And you now have a team that sees the results of playing down to Santos Laguna. You're at home. You are at home watching everybody else in the round of 32 in Leagues Cup. And no, yesterday you weren't good enough. And there are times this season, more often than not, where you're not good enough. And you are right now in the middle of the pack when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Position for a playoff spot. You finish up with these 9 matches. You get into the playoffs. You see what happens. And so that's where at least, I'm looking at things. Yeah, you do play up to the level of competition. We've seen it. You play up against the level of competition like Columbus. You go to Miami and you go to Fort Lauderdale and you beat Messi and friends. Then you have a match like yesterday. And what you're looking for, obviously, if you are a consumer in this, you were looking for the consistency of a couple of years ago. You're looking for that consistency that where you were not too long ago. You were top 6 in Major League Soccer in points per match average. That's the kind of thing that you're looking for. And right now, with the individuals that you have, for the multitude of reasons that we've been talking about all season long, right now, you are fighting for a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. You have issues putting the ball in the back of the net and positions that you need to try and find folks that will do that for you. And so that's your quest between now and the 2 weeks from now, because the closing of the window is the 18th. And you're hoping that the government services that you are in need of so that you can bring in Alexei Miranchuk will help you out in that regard. Then you also have 2 weeks to sit there and try and find other folks, probably a winger, because what you're seeing from the folks that you have at striker, Daniel Rios has been punching above his weight. And then you're also having, Jamal, when he's healthy, as a part of that combination as well. So I think that really, if you're looking for something, I think you're looking for something on the left-hand side to help you out going further. And then in the off season, then do you chase after that striker? Unless you see something in the next 2 weeks where you sit there and you can pull the trigger on a deal. Maybe you're focusing on the left-hand side. So you have an attacking midfielder in Alexei Miranchuk, and then you bring in someone from the left hand. You bring in someone for the left-hand side because it hasn't been there. Maybe you focus on the left as opposed to focusing in the middle. So that's one of the questions that I think I've got going forward. Do you focus on the left instead of going to chase after a striker with what you've seen from the striker position so far? And by the way, if I remember Maddie correctly, Daniel Rios was okay. Maddie had a one-on-one with Daniel in the mix zone after the match, and Daniel had cramped last time out against DC, and then he just had the injury to pull him to be pulled from the match against Santos Laguna, but he's okay. And that conversation with Maddie is up on the STH socials as well. Let's see. Like I said, Pars thinks that last night solidified that Rob won't be the next coach. Like I said, don't know that yet. You've got, like I said, you have the 9-match run to get into the playoffs, and then we'll see. So we'll see what happens at the end of the season, whenever the end of the season is. Let's see. Pars not back until we have a full team. They're settled in with one another and the tactics, and they perform well for 5 matches. Ropes, morning anemic performance. Not wrong. Absolutely. Morning, David. Good to see you. Good to see everybody, by the way. Glad that you're all here. Morning, Brandon. Okay, now that I'm down here to this particular point, new faces. Alex says he's sure it's cathartic to talk through the pain, so frustrated with the state of Atlanta United, don't even want to rant about it. Now, you don't have to rant, Alex. There's nothing wrong with just presenting things in conversation. It doesn't. You don't necessarily, ranting all the time. You don't necessarily have to rant. Just and that's why these Mondays are what they are, or the day after a match. I just want everyone to get what's on their mind off their chest. If you want to rant in all caps, you can. If you just want to put what's out there in your mind, like folks have done here in the first half hour, fine. Just get it out. I have, and this is more away from sports more than anything else. Go ahead and say it. I would much rather folks say what's on their mind than hold it in. Because as a fan of a team, as a fan of a sport, a fan of whatever, I would much rather you get what's on your chest off your chest so it's not staying with you. So it doesn't stay with you and it doesn't eat away at you inside. And that's me. I used to be when I wasn't, and even when I was at work, in past lives. And this is where I'll break the fourth wall here a little bit. In my time in doing what I've been fortunate enough to do for a living, I was of a mindset until I was about 30. And so, of course, it was last Tuesday, that if I had a problem with somebody, I would just, it's like, look, you got a problem, let's go. Let's go out back and we'll settle it. And it just got to a point to where I didn't want to hang on to that kind of thought anymore. And so I've just gotten to the point to where if there's something on my mind, I'll go ahead and say it so it doesn't hang with me. And so that's just something that has formulated over time. And I would much rather everyone say what's on their mind so we can all talk about it and so we can all go forward after having discussed it. Because you know how, we have our circles of friends and things. And there's always that one person that wants to hang on to something. And it's almost like the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon And I don't know if you remember this particular Calvin and Hobbes cartoon. And what you have is Calvin. This is in the first frame. Calvin comes walking in, and you see Calvin. Calvin's all mad, and so Calvin comes walking up to Susie, and Susie, being all cheerful and everything, is wondering what's going on. And so Calvin, for a couple of frames, is just venting, and he's just angry and all this kind of stuff. And no matter what Susie tried to do, Calvin would always stay mad. And then Calvin got Susie mad, and then Calvin walks out of frame, and then he looks and breaks the fourth wall, and he says, "There's nothing better than sharing a bad mood with somebody else and basically turning their mood into yours." What I don't want is, as much as I love Calvin and Hobbes as a cartoon, I don't want everyone to hang on to stuff. And I want to have good conversation. I want to have good discourse. Are we going to have solutions? I think we have suggestions. I think we have great conversation about things. So my biggest thing is, and once again, full disclosure, I had 2 years worth. I had 2 years of therapy, and it was a long time ago, but it helped me out. And part of it was just the idea of being comfortable with sharing thoughts. So I've gotten to the point, and I guess, being able to do this for a living, you get to kind of do that. But the idea of just going ahead and saying what's on your mind, and doing it in a respectful way, and not just, yelling at the top of your lungs and sitting there and, raging like the blinding of a light kind of a thing like Dylan Thomas, but just being there and saying what's on your mind and having good discourse and sharing of ideas. And that's what I like to do here in the mornings is, have good sharing of ideas, even if it's not with me directly and it's with everyone else that's a part of the Twitch pitch. And that's why I have the most profound respect for this community, because of what we've been able to do over 7 years on a daily basis. Is that we all get to hang out. We all get to sit here and have opinions. We all respectfully disagree, I'm sure, at times. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we at least know where everyone else is coming from. We can respect each other's ideas, respect each other's thoughts, and continue to go forward within the framework of what we're watching on a daily basis. So, and I'm trying not to think of it, I want us, like I said, I want all of us to sit here, look at the facts of the day, look at the morning. I want us to enjoy ourselves. I want us to enjoy what we're talking about. And I want us to have good discourse. And I want us to have good thoughts about the day, journalistically, news-wise, with each other, all of that. But at the same time, know that days like yesterday weren't good enough. And so, okay, we'll talk about it. We'll get what's on our mind off our chests for two separate body parts. And then we continue to work forward. We continue to talk about other things. We talk about the community. We talk about what's going on, because over the next couple of weeks, we got a lot to talk about. You got other leagues that are chasing championships. We've got other great stories that are out there. We've got what Atlanta United is going to be doing, getting ready for the final 9 matches of the season. So we've got all of this stuff that we get to talk about on a daily basis that we're incredibly fortunate to do. So that's what I like to do here in the mornings. I like to catch up with you guys. I like to see what's going on in your brain. I like to have great discourse. I like to have good conversation. Are we going to fix the world problems? You bet your ass we are. We've done it more than once. But my biggest thing is here, even after days like yesterday that were as incredibly frustrating as they are, let me know. Don't ever be afraid to hold anything in. Don't ever be afraid to sit there and not let me know what you think. And that we can have respectful discourse and great conversation and great exchange of ideas. I know all of you are frustrated. Trust me, I know all of you are frustrated. I would be upset if you weren't. I much rather would have the emotion of what happened after yesterday than no emotion after what happened after yesterday. But it is now to the point to where the players have a couple of weeks. You can call it a reset if you want. They all get together, probably get a couple of days off, catch your breath a little bit. Front office gets to sit there and work until the 19th or the 18th to figure out what additions they want to make, because you've got a stretch run. And I'm going to look at the standings right now in Major League Soccer. Standings in MLS right now. Eastern Conference. No, that's just okay. So no matches selected. I just have to scroll down. Okay, so here's what's going on. Here's what's going on as things stand right now. Like I said, we'll talk Leagues Cup in a little bit. Standings in Major League Soccer. You got a couple of weeks. But for that stretch run of 9 matches, Messi and friends up top, they're 5 points clear. Cincinnati's at 48 points. They're 5 points clear of Columbus. Columbus has 2 matches in hand. They win their 2 matches in hand, then they're second, and they're only 2 points behind Miami. But that's the question for Columbus, is schedule compression and dealing with that and navigating that. And you're probably going to see with Columbus some 1-0 games. You're going to see some games where the lineup will get rotated. Wilfred Nancy's going to be doing what he needs to do to win. It's going to be like when Jose Mourinho, and Michael Head can back me up on this, with when Jose Mourinho was head coach at Chelsea. There were a lot of times where, because of schedule compression and competition, there would be some of the ugliest soccer known to mankind at Chelsea. Jose Mourinho would win 1-0. And at the end of the day, you've won a match. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but you're having to juggle European competitions, domestic competitions, and your domestic league. Don't be surprised if you see that from Wilfred Nancy. You see maybe a 1-0 game here or there. It's like you get a goal on the board, then it's like, okay, we're done. They will not be setting viewership records with Columbus. But they've got 2 matches in hand on everybody else because of the run they had in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Red Bulls, who are also out of Leagues Cup, by the way, they were eliminated sooner than Atlanta United was. They were eliminated after 2 matches. So Red Bulls, who are 4th in the East, they got bounced. They're at 41 points right now. NYC's 3 points back at 38. Charlotte's at 37. I think Charlotte regresses to the mean a little bit. Orlando's at 34. And then right now, you're in the 8-9. You're in the madness right now chasing after the 8-9. And to be perfectly honest, 8 to the bottom, 8 teams separated by 7 points in the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Toronto, who I think is probably going to regress. And we'll get into the latest with John Herdman, too, since we've yet to get into the latest with John Herdman. Toronto's at 30 points. I think they regress a little bit. John Herdman has been getting the best out of the talent that he's got there, although he's decided in press conferences to slam the team. Worst soccer I've seen in 30 years as a coach. That's not going to win you folks in a locker room. Toronto at 9-14-3. They're at 30 points. I think they regress. I think Charlotte comes back to the pack. I think Toronto comes back to the pack. Atlanta right now, 7 wins, 28 points. They're in the 9. 2 wins away from Orlando to get you out of the play-in game. Philly's at 27 and 6 wins. Same record as Montreal. Far better goal difference, because when Montreal loses, they lose. Minus 15 in goal difference for Montreal right now. Nashville's at 26 points. Identical record to DC. Better goal difference by 2. Chicago's at 25 points. Chicago got bounced out of Leagues Cup. They're at 6-12-7 at 25 points, and New England is at 23 points. New England made a weird trade where they traded Henry Kessler for Tim Parker. It was a deal that seemed to benefit folks financially in the swapping of the Garber Bucks, but it was just an odd deal. You trade DeJuan Jones, and you're thinking that means that probably Peyton Miller gets more minutes, but then you trade Henry Kessler for Tim Parker. I'm guessing that's to give a veteran presence to help Peyton Miller out. I'm guessing. I don't know. It was just an odd rearranging of deck chairs with all caps in New England. So short of financial relief, and for St. Louis to perhaps get rid of someone who, might not necessarily have a lot of fans in that locker room, and Caleb Porter sitting there going, yeah, come on over. It's just an odd deal. So we'll see what happens with that. Western Conference, by the way. LAFC, group number 1. RSL hanging out right now. They're 5 points behind LAG. LAG's at 49. LAFC's at 47. RSL's at 44. Chris Armas, who really should be getting a lot of Coach of the Year conversation, with what he's been able to do. It's amazing what happens when Stan Kroenke actually allows for investment. Obviously, it's not to the level of others, looking at LAG and LAFC. But Colorado, 41 points. 4th place right now in the Western Conference. Chris Armas should be getting consideration for Coach of the Year discussion. Vancouver's at 38, and this is that other group that you have in the West. Vancouver, Houston, Seattle, Portland, 5, 6, 7, 8, all separated by 2 points. 38, 37, 37. Houston has a match in hand, so they could, in theory, if they take care of business, be 5th when everything evens out. Seattle right now, 10, 8, and 7. They're in 7th place. Portland's at 36 after their miserable start that they had. Minnesota, and then you end up with really 9, 10, 11. Minnesota, Austin, Dallas. 3 points separating 9, 10, and 11 to get into the playoffs. Minnesota 33, Austin 31, and Dallas with their start. Dallas, by the way, has not won a road match this year. Literally, it is extremes. Toyota Stadium, they're 8-3-2. 8-4 on the road. And then the discussion about Kansas City, St. Louis, San Jose. Atlanta United is not Kansas City, St. Louis, San Jose. Sporting right now 6-14-6 at 24 points. They've given up 52 goals, 2 goals a match this season in Major League Soccer. Kansas City scored 41, so slightly over, so 15 over 26. It's a little like 1.6. St. Louis got found out. They have not won a match on the road this year. They're 0-6-6. The Red Bullsian system that got them to where they are last year, they got found out in the playoffs, and then they definitely got found out second time through the league. All the batters figured out St. Louis, and that's why they got rid of Bradley Carnell, I guess. 4, 10, and 11, next to last in 23 points. San Jose, by the way, they've scored 31 goals this year in 25 matches. So 6 over 25 is 0.24. So a goal and a quarter so far this season in Major League Soccer. They've given up 61. 61 goals allowed. 61 goals. So 25 into 61 is 210. So 2.4. 2.4 goals per season, per match allowed by San Jose. You think you've got it? If you think that Atlanta United is awful, they're not Kansas City, St. Louis, or San Jose. They're not. They are not. They're not Chicago. So There are teams. Atlanta right now is in that street fight that we knew was going to happen in the Eastern Conference. But there are teams. If you think that Atlanta United is the worst in Major League Soccer, they're not. They're a part of that group that's chasing after a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. You can't say that right now for Sporting, for St. Louis, or for San Jose. You cannot say that for those three. Think about what fans are facing in Kansas City, St. Louis, and San Jose this morning. That is not what is going on with Atlanta United. I mentioned Leagues Cup, and let me get into Leagues Cup, by the way. So the standings right now in Leagues Cup, there are matches tonight. East 1, Cincinnati and New York City. That's going to determine the 1 and the 2. Querétaro is eliminated. East 2, Orlando and Montreal are in. Atlético San Luis eliminated. East 3, Tigres over a rotated Miami side. So Messi and friends are the 2 coming out of East 3. Tigres ends up winning East 3. East 4, with what happened last night, Charlotte's eliminated. So Charlotte is not advancing in Leagues Cup. Philadelphia, Cruz Azul, you're 1 and you're 2. And nothing like if you're Cruz Azul having to face Philly for a decider. East 5, still waiting on New England and Nashville. Mazatlan in the barn with 3 points. Nashville wins. It turns it into math. New England gets a point. Nashville gets eliminated. East 6, Toronto in. Pachuca's your 2. Red Bulls got eliminated after 2 matches. Their first 2 matches, they were one of the earliest teams eliminated. East 7, DC and Santos Laguna. West 1, Austin's your 1. Pumas and Monterrey, who had the elimination game last night. Pumas ends up getting the slot. Monterrey is eliminated. Monterrey, by the way, one of the top teams in Liga MX. For whatever reason, they come into a tournament like this and throw an absolute clunker. An absolute clunker by Monterrey, again, in a tournament like this. West 2, LA and San Jose. Chivas, 2 and out. West 3, FC Juarez in all caps. Dallas out. West 4, waiting on what happens with Toluca and Sporting Kansas City to determine the 1 and the 2. Chicago is out. Portland is in. They won their first 2 matches. Now they're waiting for the elimination game with León and Colorado Rapids. Necaxa and Seattle are in. Minnesota is out in West 6. Vancouver in. LAFC in. Tijuana out. And waiting for RSL in Houston to determine if there's going to be chaos in West 8. Salt Lake and Atlas each have 3 points. Atlas has played their 2 matches, so they are waiting for RSL in Houston to determine what's there. So, morning, Brandon. Let's see. David, I think there's been 1 shootout win. Mike had the stat. Hang on just a second. Let me get the Mike Conti stat about shootouts because he had that yesterday. I want to say Atlanta has 1 win in shootouts. Let's see. Conti. All right, so Mike. Let's see. 1 for 5 in competitive shootouts all time. 0 for 4 at home. So that was the stat that Mike had. Let's see. Parge, Hughes Factor, school just started or is starting today. Let's see. Wasn't good enough is not enough, according to Emilio. I understand everyone needs to keep a job, be fully open. Let's see. Well, but yeah, Michael, yes, 5 points from the bottom, yes. But we knew about the competitive nature of the Eastern Conference and what it was going to be top to bottom when the season came in. Let's see. Yeah, Wiley. Fighting for a playoff spot. We're 5 out of 8 teams. Any news on Rios' hamstring? He said he was okay after the match. Like I said, it was a cramp after the first match and a hamstring. He said he talked to Maddie and he was okay after the second match. So, all right. So I'm going to put a marker in at 9:39. We'll come back after that. So it is hour number 2, and he does exist. He actually does exist. Bart Keeler coming in, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about on the national team front. And I do have some reffing down here. Last time you were with us, what's the mug, by the way?
It's a nondescript Vera Bradley mug from work.
A nondescript Vera Bradley mug. Okay, because the boss does have Vera Bradley handbags and luggage. So I know.
Next time we have an event that I can buy stuff, I'll snag 1 or 2 for you.
Atta boy. Apparently, Charlotte is finalizing a deal to sign Tim Ream from Fulham. The deal's been close, and now Ream is traveling to Charlotte to complete the move.
That's a good deal for Tim Ream. Still play at a pretty high-ish level. Come home, literally and figuratively.
Yes,
and I think we've all wanted to move on from Tim Ream at the national team. Not anything against Tim Ream; he's been good, but as someone who had to run a lot this weekend and whose knees are now very sore on a Monday morning, I understand that he probably feels the same after playing one game of really high-level competitive soccer.
Wow.
Just a hunch there, John. No offense to Tim Ream. You get to 35 and things hurt a lot more frequently.
Don't make me laugh. I've got to go. I got to go to my ENT because it's that time of year.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I feel John, going from hot in Las Vegas with no humidity to hot in Atlanta with tons of humidity. The sinuses were sinusing last weekend. That's for sure.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So I know that we've got to talk about the men's national team, the women's national team. I wanted to get into the end of the U20 match with you and the U20 tournament and some reffing down here that's attached and VAR and VAR and things like that. So which one of the alphabet soups would you like to start in as a part of the discussion?
Let's get the U20 thing out of the way because I think it's easily summed up by saying it was clearly rigged for Mexico.
I'm shocked that something like that would ever be said, because now for those that don't know the situation, there were the United States on an absolute screamer by Nimfasa Berkimas.
Great goal.
Yeah, and so Crown Legacy's Nimfasa Berkimas. He scores to make it 1-0. So then we get into the second half of the match. And the United States is still winning. And yes, for full disclosure, the match and the tournament were in Mexico. So if I'm remembering the situation correctly, the fancy LED board held up by the fourth official had that many minutes attached, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that was the number, 5. That was the number that was on the light board. For some strange reason, and you can start your black helicopters and get them, circled out of the bullpen as you wish. The match continued past that particular number and kept going and kept going. And then I want to say in the 97th minute, you end up with an equalizer by Mexico, which then sends it into an extra 30.
Yep.
Which then in the 121st minute, Mexico gets the eventual game winner. They win 2-1 that match. They win the tournament, and they are your CONCACAF U20 champions. Whoop, whoop, raise the roof, raise the roof. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think 2 things can be true at the same time here, John. One, the U.S. did try to kill time and waste time during stoppage time. As every opponent that U.S. has ever played in any sort of CONCACAF tournament ever been done to us before. Mm-hmm. However, it seems like we are the only team that's ever been penalized by adding that additional time to this extent to the time allotted. Because 5 to 7 that's 2 minutes. That's a long time.
Yes. 2.
And then for the final whistle to blow immediately after the goal has scored. On top of some shenanigans that happened, in regular time. It's just one of those things where I think the laws of the game were applied correctly
Okay.
in this sense. In this instance, it just so happens that they just decided to apply them correctly to hurt the U.S. national team because poor little Mexico couldn't go without winning another youth tournament. They needed look, at least they made the final this time because that's better than they did at the Olympic qualification tournament. I mean, Mexico has been not very good on the youth side, and they needed this to boost their own confidence and make them feel good about themselves. Just like Australia needed to talk all that trash before swimming, only to, not beat us on gold medal and total count.
Oh boy. I mean, that's I
We
always
can do swimming down here too if we want to, John.
yeah, hey,
I got that in the bag.
hey, Paris down here, we can do that too. By the way, sidebar, since for Paris down here, I'm sorry, I've got locked into Gold Zone. And,
yeah.
and I'm like, well, and once you get into Andrew Siciliano and Scott Hansen, who host the Red Zone for the NFL channels, I'm like, all right, those are the guys that you needed. And that's the balance that you have. First, full disclosure, I would love to have that kind of a gig, to do a Red Zone kind of a hosting thing, because I always enjoy that kind of energy. But yeah, I lock it on Gold Zone and I walk away. I don't have to change the channel, especially with the 6-hour time change. I'm good to go. I dig it. But we're not going to, unless you want to divulge what happened in the gymnastics competition early this morning in Paris.
Haven't gotten there yet. I know I saw Twitter's, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yes. So, and you can sit there and look at Twitter's and know what's going on, or you can watch Gold Zone and know what's going on, or you can just sit there and plug your fingers in your ear and go tingle-lingaloo. So you look at what happened in the U20s, and how would you gauge where the United States is in their U20 development right now, and then obviously with Mexico winning the tournament, is it a bit of a false sense of security for Mexico, considering how their senior team is right now? How would you gauge where the United States and Mexico are in their U20s?
Well, I think overall, you just have to remember that youth tournaments are a snapshot of one age group, right? And I think Barkemus is 17, if my memory and numbers are correct. So he kind of is a little bit, younger than the quote age group you would normally expect in this tournament specifically. Obviously, because you have
he's playing up.
He is playing up. But I think when you look at you, and we'll talk about this when we get to the Olympics. When you look at youth tournaments, the actual winner very rarely means anything. And not to discredit Mexico winning the tournament, right? The U.S. has won multiple of these in a row, and it's nice to win. But the grand scheme of things, it just means that you have a deep enough pool that you are able to put out a team at this age group that is probably not your first choice of the available, under 20 players, and make it to a tournament final, even in CONCACAF. That says that you have some good young talent. That does not yield senior national team success, as the U.S. men's national team can attest to, as the Mexican national team can attest to. They, Quinto Partido is still a thing, and they won the gold back in 2012 at the Olympics. So, I mean, whether it actually means something or not, it is, most people would say it doesn't really mean anything to win. It just is a good example and a good display that you have youth talent at that age group. Now, again, Mexico didn't even make the final 2 years ago, so maybe this particular age group for Mexico is decent. These, what is this, 2004 to 2007 ish, right? Maybe those age groups are fine for this Mexico generation. What does it look like after that? Clearly nothing before that was super great. So you can be happy you won. I think it is indicates that this particular age group might be okay.
So you look at, the senior national team for Mexico still has some serious issues. And the larger point for me is, okay, so if the senior national team has the issues that it has, and you perpetually seem to not want to pull the trigger and bring in that younger talent to help bridge the gap and get you into that next stage, I don't know literally what the future for Mexico is until you start to remember, hey, you've got these young dudes, you need to integrate them, because we've seen it with other national teams and other, the women's national team of the United States is another example. You hang on to something too long, then you get exposed. We've seen that with the Mexican senior national team on the men's side.
Well, and that was absolutely the problem that Mexico had during the last qualification cycle. Now, you could also argue that the guys behind them weren't ready for that stage. And that's kind of the catch-22 of how do you actually, not even a catch-22. It's just the conundrum of at what point do you bring in young players who haven't proven themselves to prove themselves?
Right.
Because that is a risk versus keeping the guys who helps time and time again. That is also a risk. So it is risk assessment. And if you're Mexico at this point, I think it's pretty clear to me that you need to start looking at what other talent you have than what you have been putting out on the men's senior national team side, because really the only thing Mexico can claim are some Gold Cup wins that were with the U.S. not fielding a senior, an A team, and even to some extent Canada not, fielding their best senior team. So I think it's still true that maybe Mexico has a wider player pool than maybe the U.S. and Canada, because I think their level, their floor is probably still higher than a lot of the Mexican and Canadian, a lot of the U.S. and Canadian internationals, but their top level talent has yet to prove to be very good. And I don't think this particular U20s tournament did anything to change that. It just, maybe raises their floor a little bit.
So since we're talking senior men's national team, let's get into the United States. News kind of trickled out that we can add Pellegrino Matarazzo to the list of folks when that bolo came out. Build, I think, was one of the element of the entities that had Matarazzo part of the discussion. When I mentioned Pellegrino Matarazzo, what sticks in your head?
I mean, I think it shows to me the level of candidate that U.S. Soccer is looking for. I do want to say that I am personally a little cautious because he doesn't have international playing or management experience. And for me, that is something I would like for a coach to have, because we don't need a coach learning what the international game is on the fly. We have 2 years to get this right, and that is quickly eroding. So when it comes specifically to Matarazzo, that would be a concern I have. Now, the positive is he clearly has U.S. connections, which is probably something U.S. Soccer would prefer. But I think it does show that they are looking at managers who have been successful at, the club level, coaches who have experience as managers. I think he is just the type of candidate that says, okay, if this is the type of guy we're looking for and we're looking at, it means that U.S. Soccer isn't just going to hire the guy who's, out back who happens to be available, aka Steve Cherundolo.
Yes.
No offense to Steve, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do. Yes, and I know that a lot of folks are kind of smiling and gritting their teeth when you mention Steve Cherundolo as a name that's discussed. I know that a lot of folks in the Western Conference of Major League Soccer are like, yeah, go for it. Yeah. And the rest of humanity might be going, yeah, Steve Cherundolo. All right, so let's get into Paris. And Paris down here, let's start with the team that's no longer playing, the men's national team, and got out of group, and then ran into the proverbial buzzsaw with their first match out of group. When you look at things, holistically, I guess from 30,000 feet, with what we saw from the men's national team in Paris, what do you think?
So I thought there was first off, I wanted to discuss the discourse online.
He starts with a heavy sigh. You know he's going
Yeah.
someplace.
I want to discuss the discourse. I think if you're just looking at score lines,
Mhm.
you're not really understanding soccer very well.
Uh-huh.
Mainly because Morocco got 2 penalties.
Yeah.
Legit one that was like,
Whew.
I don't know why that second penalty, excuse me, was given for the fourth goal. That was really harsh.
Yeah.
I do think it's indicative that when you put Philly guys out on the field in a knockout round situation, they're going to fold. But that just is what that's the players we have. Poor Nate Harriel. But I think there's a lot of like gnashing of teeth and like, wow, we suck, when it's again a youth national team tournament. These are nowhere close to our preferred best U23 players, and part of that is because our best U23 players are playing regularly for the US men's national team, to the point where they were integral parts of our Copa America run that, yes, ended early. But I think we all understand that a club that doesn't have to release a player for the Olympics is probably going to give that player a choice and say, well, you can either play in Copa America or you can play in the Olympics. And the reality is most of those players are going to choose the Copa America tournament because it is a more meaningful tournament than a youth Olympics tournament, so that is the biggest thing. Who didn't have that problem this summer, John? Morocco.
Yes.
And when you look at what the team, like, first off, yes, we lost to Morocco and France 7-0. That sucks, right? I think you can obviously say that is a negative on the whole. But when you look at the team that we brought versus the team that both of those countries brought, the talent gap is just there.
Mhm.
And that's not because our players suck. It's because, again, I mean, I don't know. Ashraf Hakimi is really darn good, John.
Yes. Last
And
time I checked, yes.
and our overage players, no offense to them, are 3 MLS guys. I mean, that's just the reality, right? I mean, Georgi Mihailovic, Walker Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, we love them. They're, good dudes, but they're not they're not Hakimi level players. They're just not. They're not even close to that, on top of, a lot of other of their U23 players who have been playing, not just on teams, but playing at for teams in the top 5 leagues. Our, I don't know, best player, maybe, if you're going to go Badge FC kind of stuff, is, Paredes and Aronson, mainly Paredes at Wolfsburg. We have a lot of other guys who are playing at decent clubs. But it just, the reality is your talent gap was exposed. And that's what happens. And again, when your over 23 player is one of the best players at his position in the world and has been for, I don't know, a decade maybe.
And plays at PSG, yeah.
Not a decade, half a decade, but you know what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah. He has a track record.
Like, what did you expect to happen? And I think that's where the discourse of trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater over a youth national team tournament, where we still advanced the knockout rounds, which is the first time we've done that since 2000. If you don't see that as a step forward, then I don't know what to tell you. Now, I think you can also say, well, we've proven we can do it, so the next time it is win that knockout round game. But this team was not going to beat Morocco. You look at these players that you selected, not better than the players Morocco had.
You look at the women's national team, and word out of Paris. Every women's national team player is available for training today, including Tierna Davidson, Emily Fox, and Corbin Albert. No confirmation yet about Davidson returning to the roster, but everyone's out there right now. Emma Hayes, quote, "It's a great sign," end quote. So that's where the U.S. women's team is, and they just seem to, they're handling their business, as they say, right now.
Oh, John, hold on.
What?
We got some breaking news here.
Hang on. Now, I'll go ahead and give it to you.
It's U.S. Women's National Team related.
Okay, hang on. If it's what I think it is, then let me get you your music. All right, hit me.
All right. So the U.S. women's national team announced a third window in the October international window, or third game in the window. USA versus Argentina, October 30th at Lynn Family Stadium in Louisville. John, they're finally playing there. That's awesome. That's really cool. So love to see that we're playing at Lynn Family Stadium that has deserved a big match like this for quite some time. I would imagine that open end zone is going to get some temporary seating to fill the demand for tickets for this game.
TNT, Universo, True TV, Max, and Peacock. And they have a presenting sponsor, by the way, Jim Beam.
Which I think that's the headliner right there, right? I mean, come on. You get Jim Beam to be a presenting partner of the U.S. women's national team.
Prairie match in Kentucky. You get that bourbon going. I mean, see now here's something for you. So you're playing at Lynn Family Stadium, October the 30th, 7:00 kick. Do you get the bourbon? Do you get the bourbon colored kit? Do you go bourbon colored bomb pop for the match at Lynn Family?
I don't think that's no.
Oh, man can dream. But October 30th at Lynn Family. So they're about blanking time that you're playing a match at Lynn Family Stadium.
Which is really cool, and that's the type of friendly that you put in that stadium, to be quite honest. I've been wanting youth national team friendlies at stadiums like that for a long time, but good for them. Love it. Yeah, that's good. I think that is a good usage of the October window. Obviously, you remember, John, FIFA took away that September international window on the women's side, not for the men's side.
Yeah.
Which for the first time I actually liked this, that the FIFA did something different for the men.
Yes.
But you added a third one, and I am hoping we get a second European match in November soon. My sources have been quiet on that, but hopefully soon. Anyway.
Okay. What have you seen from the women's national team? Obviously, having to navigate injuries and having to work on substitution patterns because of that. But what have you seen from Emma Hayes so far in the tournament in Paris?
So I want to just say that you are allowed to both criticize Emma Hayes for her lack of substitutions. I don't know if it's fair to criticize her for a lack of squad rotation, mainly because Sam Coffey should have just not picked up a 4th-minute yellow card. I mean, look, that is on the player to also understand that. But I think it's fair to criticize Emma for not substituting players quicker. She didn't do that in the Australia match. She didn't do it in this match against Japan. I think it's also fair to understand that her goal, and I'm okay with it in the long run, her goal is not necessarily to win gold at the Paris Games. This is the first step in the rebuilding of this program to be the juggernaut that it used to be. Now, the fact that we're still in the semifinals, we're playing for a medal tomorrow, while kind of instilling a new system, not really rotating or substituting players, because Emma's goal is to get the starting 11 to fully understand this system and get reps playing together. The fact that we're still advancing to the semifinals is pretty good. And the fact that, we still have a chance to medal and possibly get gold says a lot. But I think it's also fair to understand that this is Emma's first international tournament that she's managed, right? Yeah, she's managed Champions Leagues and stuff like that, but this is a different beast entirely. The Olympics specifically are a very special and different beast because of all the things that make this a much harder tournament to win because of roster and match compression. But I think it's okay to say, hey, Emma, have you considered maybe substituting before the 90th minute?
That's very Berhalterian of her.
Yeah. And I think, again, the difference between the two is one seems to have a vision of what, the long-term vision of let's win 2027. The other one just doesn't know what he's doing. But hey, he made that MLS Cup final that one time, so that gives him enough clout to be hired and loved. So I think, again, it's fair to say, like, yo, you should sub. I think it's also fair to understand, as you've reported, as you relayed the report, if you get Davidson back, if you get Fox healthy, if Coffee and Albert are available for selection in this game, right? That inherently helps with squad rotation a little bit, right? You can put Tierna hopefully back in with Germa, a partnership that's been very tournament. If you can play Coffee, which I don't see why you can't. She didn't have an injury. She was just a misconduct sub or a misconduct cut. I think you can put her in there, and now you've got you don't have to have Albert start. That means you can bring her in later for any number of the midfielders that you want to sub off. And maybe you don't start Fox. Maybe you actually start Kruger, who can play that stay back, right back job, right? And then bring Fox on later. Maybe that's a potential opportunity here. Kruger, I think, is up to that task, especially if you need someone to be essentially a third center back. So there may be some level of just rotation built in because of players both coming back and maybe being hurt. But I think, if you're just looking at evaluating Emma's job coaching this team, this tournament, it's fair to criticize her for not making substitutions quicker and more frequently in these matches.
Okay. So you had your breaking news. So I'll go ahead and give you mine. Before you came on for your segment this morning, it was divulged and discussed from our friends of the Canadian press, and we'll get into them in a minute. Brazil has appealed FIFA's decision to suspend Marta for 2 matches after her red card in the group stage of the women's tournament. Brazil set to face Spain in a semi in Marseille tomorrow. Marta sat out the quarterfinal win over France after she got the red card in her team's group finale against Spain for a foul on Olga Carmona. FIFA's disciplinary committee later determined the foul merited a 2-match suspension. The Brazilian Soccer Federation announced late Sunday they were appealing. Quote, in a statement, Marta has an impeccable record of respecting the rules of the sport and fair play. America giggles. Being a world reference in the sport for several generations and everything she's achieved on and off the field. Even if Brazil loses to Spain in the semis, Marta will still have a chance to play in the bronze medal match set for Friday in Lyon. A Brazilian victory will send the team to the gold medal game in Paris on Saturday. Silver medals for Brazil most recently in 2008. So Brazil is appealing the 2-match suspension for Marta. No real surprise, but we now officially have that official.
As they should. I understand the laws and the rules around this tournament, making that a 2-game suspension, but I personally don't agree with it. It's not it was a foul. Let's move on. It also, like, look, let's be real honest. We'll play on the heartstrings a little bit. Marta deserves to play in a final match like and actually have a chance to fight for a medal, fight for a gold medal. And to be frank, she's an icon of the sport. And, from just a history perspective, you wouldn't want her to have to miss out on this opportunity and not be a part of what could be something special for not just her, but her nation's team.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of special, how many times have you run out of superlatives involving Trinity Rodman?
What? You're going to have to come up with more. I think this is actually what I learned from Trinity this tournament is, I think it's fair to criticize players for maybe not performing, but she still gives 110%. I think when you look at specifically the way that the U.S. plays right now,
that's $1 in the jar, by the way. You can only give 100%.
Well, okay. She gives 100%, and then she gives 110%. Let me tell you why. She's not just playing her position as a right winger because of the way this team is playing, where you kind of have a stay home right back, she has a lot more space to cover on that right side. So she kind of is playing, taking responsibilities from either the right back or the right-sided midfielder role. So she is having to put in extra effort to cover that a lot of times. And she's still able to lead this team in scoring, and she's still able to continue to hustle and fight. And, outside of one yellow card, somehow keep her temper, which is pretty impressive. But the goal she scored specifically against Japan is just I was listening to Total Soccer Show yesterday coming back from refereeing, and it's funny because we had this a lot in the Jill Ellis era, but it does feel a little bit more strategic and organized with Emma. But sometimes you just go, look, our best players, our really talented players, are gonna more often than not find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think specifically Saturday morning was a good example of trust that your really darn good players will do really darn good soccer things. And Trinity showed why you should have that trust, because she tried it once or twice and it didn't come off. And then finally she got that opportunity and she saw her window. And she put it in the back of the net. I mean, it wasn't curling. That was maybe a little curl, but that was a rope into that top corner. And it also came from something that I think, when you watch the game, it was frustrating how risk averse the women's national team was playing, right? I thought it was, I don't know if this is the correct word, but it seemed like not scared, but they just didn't want to turn the ball over because, one, we know how potent Japan can be on a counterattack.
Protective?
Yeah, protective maybe is the better word. Yeah. Because you knew Japan was going to play this way and try to hit you on the counterattack. So you didn't want to give them easy opportunities to dispossess you and start a counter. But at the same time, it felt like they were a little tired. And that's where you can look at Emma and go, what are we doing here? But you need to have the confidence that you can make a dangerous pass every now and then. And I think that was the thing that you saw was Crystal Dunn said, oh, hey, here's an opportunity for me to hit a somewhat risky ball. Let me go hit it. It goes to Trinity Rodman. She takes a great touch to settle it. And there she goes into the top corner. And we're flying through the semifinals. Shockingly, the shortest of second shortest of the four semifinals. So that's the other thing is you were worried, right, of all the minutes these girls were putting on their legs, and then Germany and Canada go into not just extra time but penalty kicks. And shockingly, Jarrett, when you don't have drone footage, you don't have the data to go save penalty kicks.
It's amazing. Just couldn't see that happening. Still waiting to see, I don't expect to get an answer in the immediate future, but I'm still kind of waiting to see how big the sword of Damocles is that falls on people in Canada, and also who it falls on. Who is going to take the brunt of this punishment? Because call me cynical if you wish, I refuse to believe that the people truly responsible will get all of the blame for this, and they will try and find people to diversify said blame. I don't think, given what we know now, that Beth Priestman is going to work again in a major confederation at all. I'm still waiting to see if John Herdman survives the year in Toronto. Between accusing a New York City player, or a New York City manager, of assaulting one of his players, which was not backed up, and then Herdman didn't really chase it. I'm sorry, if a coach assaults one of my teenagers, I'm not letting it go. Between that accusation and now the fact that he was running Canada during all this, I keep waiting to see if Toronto's going to be like, you know what, maybe we should just move on.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy seeing Canada. Part of me enjoyed seeing Canada get through the group because I enjoy anything that's powered by spite, and the players were powered by spite. But then once that was done, I'm like, okay, you've done the dog and pony show. You can go home now.
I love the comment from David.
Yeah.
Somehow can't pay players, can't even host training camps, but they got all these drones. Those drones are not cheap. This is not little flying drones that you have to get that quality footage. It's impressive. really impressive.
Yep. To the last story that we have with the Rick Westhead byline, and as we have continued to maintain, that is one of the last bylines in the state in the country of Canada that you want, is a Rick Westhead byline. In the days leading up to the 23 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, which Bart Keeler was at, Canada soccer officials worked behind the scenes to determine how to handle a complaint that had been reported to a federation board member alleging that the women's national team program had become a toxic workplace. 3 sources familiar with the matter told TSN. After the federally funded Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner was notified and an external human relations company commissioned to investigate, Canada soccer officials subsequently decided that the probe was not being handled properly and pivot, bringing in Ottawa lawyer Erin Durant to start the process over and conduct her own investigation, the sources said. Canada Soccer has not publicly acknowledged the investigation or revealed whether anyone was disciplined. Quote, one source to Westhead. People who were interviewed did not receive a copy of an investigation report, and they weren't even told what, if anything, the complaint had led to. It's safe to say that the trust that was given because the investigation was independent was lost after that. It may be hard to trust yet another independent investigation, end quote. Durant declined to comment. Sources told TSN that they are open to sharing their perspective on working with the women's national team program, but aren't sure, based on their experiences with 2 previous investigators, whether they should trust Canada Soccer's newly retained independent investigator, Sonia Regenbogen, a lawyer with the Toronto law firm Matthews Dinsdale. One of the people who was interviewed during Canada Soccer's 2023 investigations told TSN they wanted the federation to release them from a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement so they could share their story publicly. The Fed told TSN it would not agree to release the person from an NDA and wrote in an email that it encouraged anyone with information to contact Regenbogen, who has been hired to investigate the spying incident at the Paris Games and to also scrutinize historical ethical decision-making within the Federation's national team programs. Paula Senra writes an email to TSN trying to win over the hurdles, trying to win over the trusted prospective witnesses is just one of the hurdles Regenbogen will need to overcome in the coming weeks and months. Several lawyers who specialize in the practice told TSN in interviews last week. So why? Like I said, pivot. I feel like Ross. Pivot, and then why? I mean, I say this somewhat rhetorically. Why is John Herdman still employed by Toronto FC? But I cannot, for the life of me, Bart, look at a program that has been this blanked up. It's been a while to have a program short of something in college football that has been this blanked up, that is attached to Canada Soccer, and you now have Bev Priestman, who has a basically the equivalent of a 1-year show cause, and an assistant and an administrator that have 1-year show causes as well. What in the blank is going on with Canada Soccer?
Oh, man. Well, again, I think this just has to call into question anything they've achieved over the past 5 years. I mean, I hate to say that, like, the players don't deserve any credit because they obviously had to go out there and execute game plans they were given.
Yeah.
But it's just very clear on both the men's and the women's side that the advantages they gained and the performances they put in were clearly achieved. I'm sorry. I mean, when you have this level of cheating to the point where you also say, well, everyone does it, and then everyone's like, not really. I think again, there's gaining advantages, and then there's just flat out cheating, and especially a lot of this is, the chat and the conversation in the chat is going the Twitch pitch.
Yeah.
Some of this is just flat out illegally obtained. And so we're not talking about, cheating from, we're not talking about like cheating and just a sporting merit type thing. I mean, there are some of these things that are just illegal actions.
It's not like banging garbage cans if you're a Houston Astro.
Right. It's not, McDonald's bags of money. if you will.
Great, Danny Sheridan and the Bagman. Yeah,
This is these as we saw with this specific incident that kicked off all the investigations. This is illegal stuff, and that is again a very sad for this Canadian team that did achieve a lot. Under Priestman, achieved a good bit before her, but it just calls into question anything they've achieved. It definitely calls into question everything the men's national team has achieved under Herdman. I don't trust that they did anything with any sort of moral turpitude. It's unfair to the players, but at the same time, the players got the unfair advantage. So
yeah, it's like, so Jarrett, this is not how this works. It's like you can't sit there and not penalize the current players, because that's not how this works. Yeah, you can't penalize. Well, yeah, you can. You kind of have to here. That's how this is supposed to play out. Is that, yeah, this happened now, and you have to penalize them now, regardless of what happened, and you get the 6-point penalty, and you still make it through the group and all that kind of stuff. But you can't, just for a triple negative that'll drive my mother crazy, you can't not penalize in the present tense because of actions that might have happened in the past. You have to let the process expose what has been there. And we're seeing that still with Canada's national soccer program, not just the team.
Yeah, it's the thing we talked about before, which is that even if the players hadn't ended up, allegedly the players saw drone footage and then used it to their advantage. So I don't want to hear anything about them, not knowing what's going on. But the fact of the matter is that even if they weren't running the spying, you can't just let sleeping dogs lie in those situations.
Yeah.
Because if you do, then you set a standard for anyone else that, if we just cheat, like if we cheat and we win some stuff, we get flags fly forever. We don't have to worry about anything. And we can just point to the players like, they don't deserve this punishment. And then everyone gets off scot-free. They know it's somebody, in the words of the great American classic film, National Treasure, somebody's got to go to jail, Ben.
Yes, absolutely true.
And Bart's now died.
Bart
they weren't even doing anything cool, like stealing the Declaration of Independence. They were just trying to get drone footage of practices.
They were getting drone footage of Honduras.
Yeah, of Honduras and New Zealand.
That noted CONCACAF powerhouse, Honduras.
Yeah, and the noted Olympic power, New Zealand. Leading into
the country that Abby Erceg quit playing for because they had so many issues and then had to come back to once they had settled some of their issues, but not necessarily all of them.
Yes. So, Jarrett, back to the original point with Toronto FC. Is it possible Herdman had evidence of the assault, but is it from illegal video footage? So he couldn't.
I don't know. But the fact that everybody just dropped it, kind of made me do the side eye about it. And the fact that Herdman oversaw the women's team and the men's team, and then all of this happened.
And Priestman was a disciple of Herdman.
All of this has me side eyeing John Herdman, and the fact that John Herdman not exactly, the least abrasive person.
Yes.
Toronto's kind of come back down to earth this year. Like, there are 3 things I feel good about outside of Atlanta in terms of like how I thought the season would go. I thought Charlotte would get better as the season went on, and Dean Smith actually was able to institute everything he wanted to do, and they've gotten better as the season going on. Yeah. I thought Minnesota was fraudulent. Minnesota is clown fraud. Looking that way, all the numbers pointed to it. I feel better about it. And then Toronto's like Toronto just needs to survive the year, and they're just trying to survive the year. It hasn't been great. It is what it is. You're just trying to survive the year, and it's just basically Toronto taking a pencil and poking their 2 Italian superstars, going, "Do something. Hey, do the thing." And yeah, it's. I don't know what you would do, because it would be a disaster for Toronto FC to have to replay. You brought in John Herdman, who has great success with the national team.
In my time as head coach at Olympic Games or World Cups, we've never been involved in any of those activities.
If you qualified that anymore, I don't know how. Yeah, it's just a lot of qualifications in a statement that opens more questions than it creates more questions than it does answers.
Yes.
But man, they'd be in a shit situation though, having to replace another manager again. This time, not necessarily for performance issues in your own building. Although I also want to ask the question about Toronto. Hey, remember that time y'all hired Chris Armas and asked him to come install a system that he runs that has nothing to do with the players you had on your roster? Square peg, round hole.
Yeah.
You fired him, just a couple months into the season?
Yeah. 9 matches.
Meanwhile, he goes to Colorado, which has been basically like Sideshow Bob on a rake for the last decade in MLS. And Colorado's like, hey, man, we'll give you time. We'll give you the pieces you want. They gave him those things, and now Colorado is no longer Sideshow Bob stepping on a rake.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Chris Armas is okay at this?
Yeah, maybe.
Also, apparently a much more likable person than John Herdman. But, yeah, man. I don't know. Canada.
Yes.
Just not the usual Canada, but Canada.
Yes. the downstroke in the emotion there. I think we held Bart way over this morning. And hopefully the SO is okay, because the SO was having some struggles with the cough there at the studios.
And yes, David, I'm happy to drop National Treasure references into this to one of our greatest thespians, Nicolas Cage, who has decided to turn his career into the weirdest things possible, with, starting with Mindy, which, if you've never seen, is like one of the weirdest cinematic experiences you can ever experience.
I have not seen Mindy, so
ground yourself first if you ever do. It's very weird. So I assume everyone's otherwise is still pissed off about yesterday, because I know I am. Like, I was on the road all day yesterday. I drove to Greenville and then watched the game from there, going to meet up with family, and then was like, well, it's 2 hours I'm not getting back.
Yeah, 2.5, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. Mindy's outstanding. Unc knows what's up. Mindy's weird, but it's like this era of like Nicolas Cage blew all of his 90s and early 2000s money, so now he's just doing the weirdest things he can possibly find, and it's working. Not identical, but in the same way that like Daniel Radcliffe made all the Harry Potter money and was like, I don't have to work anymore. I don't have to pay bills. Now I can just do the weirdest movies I want to do. And then he does, and it's great. Mm-hmm. All this should also be the thing.
But yeah, people are pissed. Understand?
They should be. It was not good enough.
Yeah.
You had Santos come into your building, and a team that has struggled all year long. And I'll tell you the thing that pisses me off the most, John.
There's only one thing that pisses you off the most?
Well, it's the inconsistency, man, because, like, here's the thing. We watched this team beat Columbus and play their ass off.
And Messi and friends in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we watched but you had your DPs for that.
Yeah.
That's a different team to me. But you beat Columbus in your house. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, yeah, it's 2 set-piece goals, but they were both well-worked. They're well-placed. It's, good picks. Everyone's doing their job well and creating opportunities. You've shown what you can do, but you have not shown the consistency with it. And that's the maddening part, because you go look at some of the wins. You can be better than what you showed, but the consistency isn't there. That's the thing that kills me. It's like that's the frustrating part to me, is that you've shown what you can be when you get to the top of your game, and it's solid. It's really good. Is it going to win MLS Cup? Probably not, unless something really weird happens.
Yeah.
I'll never say no in this league, because this league is too dumb to bet on. But the lack of consistency game to game is too much. I mean, you had DC begged you to win that game. They begged you to win it. And you gave them, you basically gave them 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
The third goal is an absolute golazo. Pick it out the back corner. That's one of those where, like, you just got beat on that play by a beautiful finish. It happens. You return the favor with Saba's curling effort. Great. But otherwise, you handed them the game. And then you just kind of flubbed your penalties. And, yeah, man, like, it's just... Yeah, I'm just... I'm just annoyed by it because the lack of consistency game to game. You had 2 games at Leagues Cup. You had DC coming here, which is a winnable game. Look, DC, Troy Saints doing a very good job in DC.
Yeah.
But they have a game plan. It's built around get ball to Benteke, profit. But you know what they're going to do. And you didn't take care of business. You did not. And then you get Santos, who had to travel to DC and then travel to Atlanta and held you. And look, I mean, they created plenty of chances. You had some chances in that game, but like it felt like in the second half of that game, the last 10 minutes of that game, you're like, oh, Jesus, why are they the ones dominating play? Like, I was not okay with it. Dax McCarty talked about it. It's like, it's not good enough. Yeah. It's just, it was embarrassing. And look, you're at this point, there's nothing to do except watch the rest of the Leagues Cup and laugh at the chaos that will surely unfold because this tournament made a deal with the devil to be as weird as humanly possible.
Yeah.
See, Alex, I would say haven't been consistent because you've gotten extreme highs and then mediocre. Like, if we were just mediocre without doing anything else, I'd say so. But like, occasionally you flash these games, you're like, it's pretty impressive. We're a bunch of guys who were just kind of thrown together without a 10. And then you just don't. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's you show just enough in those really good games to be a problem, but not enough to get over the hump. So all you do now is, I get it. I know a lot of people check out Leagues Cup. That's fine. No judgment if you do, I promise. I will watch it because, again, it made a deal with the devil. It's chaos incarnate. I don't know why. I don't know how they haven't just played normal games yet. But I'll do that. See what you do on the attacking front, whether you go get an attack. When you go get an attacker, if you go get a winger or a 9, I don't know which one. You need someone to come in and be an asshole, though. Like, you need someone to come in with balls, with some fight, and to be willing to run someone over. And you need someone to be able to shift everything. And right now I feel like you just don't have, like, one of the guys who's brought that at times was Jay Fortune, which again, it's the same conversation we had, John, after the video dropped of right after the
Cincy?
After the Cincy loss where like Gonzo tears into everybody. I love that Noah Cobb spoke up. He shouldn't have to. Like, you should have guys speaking up and grabbing this thing by the balls, and you don't, and that's it's not okay. You need more than that. Yeah. You need better than that. You need guys who can be vocal leaders and who will just grab this thing. But we'll see. Like I said, now you got a month off, and I didn't want that. I wanted to keep playing. I don't care if you think the team isn't good enough or if they quote unquote deserved or did not deserve to go to knockout rounds. I don't really give a shit about what they do or don't deserve or how you feel about they do or don't deserve. I want to keep playing in tournaments. I want weird things to happen, and I want to keep seeing if they can make something happen. Just because you feel like they don't deserve something doesn't mean I don't want to see them, tap dance, through the flames and try and make something weird happen.
Right.
I'm always for it. I'm always for more games. But they've got to make that happen, and they didn't. They let Santos come in here and play him to a draw, lost on a shootout. I mean, you had Jamal's PK saved, but Although a couple times, I will say a couple times Cohen guessed right.
Yeah.
And they're well taken PKs, but
it was a short run up.
But here's the thing: it shouldn't have come down to that.
No,
you had to find a goal.
Yep.
You're at home against one of the most struggling one of the more struggling teams in the continent, and you didn't find a goal. And finding goals lately hasn't really been your issue. You've been able to find them, but you were not able to find one. That's not okay. Should never have gone to a shootout. And that is a failure on their part. Now, you've got Maranchuk coming in. You'll try and get the visa done, and you try and have him for, the next round of games that are coming up in league play. Great. The manager situation sounds like it'll be dealt with in the off season. Fine. You'll run Rob out there the rest of the year. Rob will put this on his resume. Whether Rob is here next year or not, I don't know. Maybe he gets a chance somewhere else. And I know a lot of it will be pointing at the results here, but considering what he's had to work with, it's going to be interesting to see, I think, how Rob is perceived. Because I know the shine has worn off with a lot of people here after the way things went in, was it 21 or 20? Yeah, 21. Versus now. But I know Rob still has respect to people. So whether or not he stays here,
Don't know,
man. No, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yes, I sit here. You want me to go get him? No, let's just see how this goes. At this point, you have you guys should be playing for contracts. You have a lot of guys up for contracts at the end of the season. You have U22 spots opening up. You have the chance to get some changes, do some things right in the offseason, but there's guys who are playing for contracts and playing for bread right now.
Yeah.
That need to step it up. And if you don't want to step it up, if you don't want to bust your ass, you're not willing to go get in a fight over something. You're not willing to go get stuck in, not willing to make it count. I will find someone who is. And I don't know where I find that. I don't care. We'll go find it. But
could be a youngin' from within.
It could be, again, Jay Fortune's got, I will never get over the Indy 11 game where two bouncing 50-50 balls. First one, Jay Fortune goes flying in like full Leroy Jenkins and contests a 50-50 ball. Second one, it's Tristan and one of the Indy 11 defenders, and Tristan just backs out and lets him take it.
Yeah.
No. I want you to fight for every ball. I want, because we ran into this, John, we ran into this Saturday night with the twos. First 45, the scoreline flatters the twos. Second 45, I don't know where the hell the fight went, but they were second to every ball. They weren't fighting for everything. They were a step slow. Don't know where it went. And those are teenagers. That's going to happen with teenagers. Shouldn't happen with guys in their mid to late 20s who are expected to come in here and make things better. So, yeah. But yes, I am very much on the let's see how this goes. Let's see how it goes the rest of the way, because I'll tell you who's benefited from all this is kind of weird is like Daniel Rios. Whether Daniel Rios is here next year, somebody's going to give that kid a contract. He's played his ass off. Yeah, he's overvalued to his contract has been.
Correct.
I'm happy with Daniel Rios. Happy with Jamal Teare. Shande Silva? Nah. I mean, Shande was good in spurts yesterday, but overall, like, he hasn't given you what you needed, which is why I'm kind of still in the boat of, if you want to go get like a DP left winger, I'm not opposed to it right now.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, Emilio and I talked about this last night. Like, my view on Saba is still that Saba as a TAM winger, if you tell me you go get a DP 10, a DP left winger, and a DP striker, and Saba's your quote unquote fourth option, maybe your third scoring option, I think he can thrive off of the gravity of others.
Yeah, I think Saba is a guy, not the guy.
Yes. Yeah, I think Saba is a guy. He's not the guy. He's not Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
Or he is kind of Joe Johnson. He's not really the A1, like the guy leading the line, but I think he can absolutely do some Chris Bosh stuff, and he can be part of a triumvirate and can be very, very dangerous in those moments. And I like Saba a lot. And I think there's been a shift. We were talking to Rob Valentino about him. Ever since like the kid came into the world, he mentioned, he's like, there's been a shift in Saba. And I like what we've seen from that shift. The thing is, Saba runs hot and cold. That's fine. Like, nothing's perfect, but I'm fine with what he gives you. If you're getting if you had Gigi continuously, if Gigi didn't decide he wanted a new contract and then decided he wanted to go to Cruz Azul, in which case, cool, pack the bags for him. You're going to get a bunch of money, and he wants to go there and doesn't want to be here. Fine. I want people who want to be part of the project.
Yeah.
Sorry. Last thing, Unk's thing about TRA is that's the $1 million question, man.
Yeah.
And that's a question I would want to ask about a guy like a Daniel Rios. Is like, if Jamal can't give you 90 consistently, if he can't stay on the field, availability is the best ability. Would you if you were to let him walk, would you bring Daniel in and ask him to be your number 2 striker? I think if this is an audition to see if you want to bring Daniel Rios in as a number 2, I'm not asking him to start. I want a bold, out and out, boss ass number 9 to start 2025. I think you could do worse than Daniel as your number 2, though, man. If it's not Jamal.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to go over the contract situations and the decisions. End of this calendar year, Brad, Dax, Jamal, Daniel, Ronald, Nick Firmino, Efren Morales, Tyler Wolf, and Jay Fortune. Those are your 24s. Those are the decisions that have to be made at the end of this calendar year. So that's what you're staring at.
And I agree. Like, Noah Cobb being back would help too, because Noah does have some FU in him. So does Efra. Efra almost has too much in him, but Efra almost needs to rein it back sometimes. He's got combo ball in his blood.
Yes.
But yeah, man, like, you're gonna have decisions to make, and I know as long as Bocanegra is a part of this front office, there is going to be that cloud hanging over it with a lot of people. But you are going to have a lot of spots to play with, and you are going to have a lot of money to play with. Now you need to go get that done. I haven't loaned out players. Ibarra is going to be gone. I agree on if I can keep Jamal on a smaller salary, yeah. If I want to rotate Jamal and Rios as like my 2 and 3 strikers, and they're willing to stay on smaller salaries, cool. I need Jamal to stay healthy is the only thing, which sucks for him because he's so damn explosive physically. I hate that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Ibarra is on loan. I imagine he's going to stay down there. Yeah. Sosa, certainly. Sosa's been outstanding.
Yes.
And I still think Santi was just a change of scenery guy. We saw what he was capable of here, and just after the injury, it wasn't the same for him after the hernia. And it just seemed like the kind of guy who he needed a change of scenery. He needed to go back home, clear his head, and he's done fantastic, and I'm happy for him. Happy for Ibarra, too.
Yeah.
Ibarra hasn't played as much, but he's been fine. Both of them will be gone. I don't know that you keep Mosquera, although he played a really good crossing yesterday to Saba. It's a really good save.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you keep Mosquera. And you could have 3 DPs, three U22 spots open. You could have 2. You don't have to use them all at once.
No.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't think Ibarra is going to come back from loan, if I'm being honest. Yeah. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons for that is the comments he made last year when he went to Toronto about not wanting to leave Atlanta. And I didn't want him to leave here either. He had been very good, but you had to clear a spot to bring in Tristan. And look, Tristan's at this point. Tristan's got to be fighting for his food right now because he hasn't been good enough. Not since he was partnered with Hisetu last year. That's the best partnership we saw from Tristan. Otherwise, it's been too inconsistent.
News out of Huntsville.
Oh, what's up out of Huntsville?
Huntsville has announced the appointment of Chris O'Neill as head coach. Most recently served as the U17 coach for the Messi and Friends Academy. Officially going to join the club tomorrow and make his sideline debut this weekend against Chattanooga FC at Wicks Family Field at Joe Davis Stadium. Quote from Matt Cairns, Director of Soccer Operations for Hunt City. Quote from O'Neill, comes to Huntsville, vast experience coaching, developing young talent in the U.S. with MLS academies and other youth soccer clubs. 1 year as the U17 head coach for Inter Miami, helped continue to develop young players. Previously, 5 years with Sporting Kansas City's academy, head coach for both U15 and U17. During a stint in KC, received elite coaching training through a partnership with the French Football Federation that earned him his elite formation coaching license. Connections with the state of Alabama. 2 years as the team Adidas director of the Vestavia Hills Soccer Club. 3 seasons playing at UAB. 37 appearances between 01 and 03. Press conference is set for Thursday afternoon on campus. So Chris O'Neill is the new head coach at Huntsville City Football Club. So that is now officially official as well. So,
and yeah, guys, so you'll get those U22 spots. You don't have to fill them immediately, though. This is like the kid who gets $10 and it starts burning a hole in your pocket. You don't have to spend it on the first thing you see.
Right.
So you want to sit on those U22s, go for it. Sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
See what you can do. You'll try and see what's available for D. And the same thing with, like, I think you'd love to bring in a DP attacker for the rest of the season, be it a striker or a winger.
Right.
But if the deal isn't right, then don't do it just to do it.
Yeah. Just because you have money in your pocket to burn, as you said, like the kid with the $10 in his pocket, doesn't mean that you need to go down to the corner.
You don't have to go to KB Toys, RIP KB Toys.
Yes.
You don't have to go down to KB Toys and burn through it, man.
Let's see. What to watch, where to watch it today. FS1 has Leagues Cup Toluca and Sporting at 9 o'clock. Telemundo has the Morocco-Spain match at noon. Tuda NA is simulcasting the Leagues Cup match at 9. 4 matches in Leagues Cup. FC Cincinnati, NYC at 8. Houston RSL at 9, along with Leon, Colorado Rapids, Toluca, and Sporting. NBC Sports, obviously, Morocco, Spain at noon, France and Egypt at 3. Same on Peacock. Paramount Plus, 3 o'clock today, St. Johnstone and Aberdeen in the Scottish Premiership, 3 o'clock.
Hell yes, we are back, y'all. I want to see what Aberdeen doesn't trip over their dick this year. Aberdeen's been actively tripping over their dick since, frankly, since they fired Glassy.
Yeah,
as they fired him halfway through the year.
Yeah,
while he was trying to change the entire roster over, and then they got stuck between rosters and went back to like a super regressive style with like only half a roster that was comfortable doing that. And then they've just been kind of like stumbling around, but now they've got a new manager in who I think will be better than what they had with Aberdeen Green.
Yeah.
What is Leagues Cup? Never heard of it. Leagues Cup is this beautiful competition that MLS made a deal with the devil over so that we get the weirdest possible games ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Like, that's what it is, man. Like, it's just the dumbest competition. The real sin for me with Leagues Cup, though, is the fact that the games are compressed so damn much. We already have enough schedule compression. Now we're gonna have teams playing every 4 days. The knockout rounds are gonna be a bear. Anyone who catches a team coming out of the end of Leagues Cup might get a little bit of a present by the time it's all said and done, because those teams are going to be tired as hell, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be working their ass off. Those playing every 4 days, traveling. Like, this is a suicidal schedule they put together. They need to cut games out of the regular season or something, man. I don't know what you do.
Hey, it's a TV series. You're not going to cancel episodes.
I know, but you cut games out of the regular season, put everyone back in Open Cup, and call it a day.
Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Liverpool's Joel Matip, former Liverpool defender Joel Matip, target for Bayer Leverkusen on a free. Joe Gomez, no interested in leaving Liverpool this summer, despite the club offering him in a swap deal for Anthony Gordon. Chelsea could move for Matt O'Reilly if Conor Gallagher joins Atletico Madrid, and it looks like that's going to be the case, at least the Atletico Madrid part. Napoli have not received any official offers for Victor Osimhen, not keen on a move to Chelsea, with Belgium forward Romelu Lukaku moving the other way as a part of any deal. Dortmund lead Chelsea and Villa in the race to sign Hoffenheim forward Max Bayer. AC Milan have made a bid worth €15 million plus add-ons to sign Emerson Royal from Spurs. Nicholas Füllkrug has completed his West Ham medical before his move from Borussia Dortmund. Leeds have asked about the availability of 19-year-old midfielder Bobby Clark on loan from Liverpool. Juve want to offload 8 stars in a summer overhaul, including Chiesa, who's been linked with Spurs. 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester United, Arsenal also interested in a cut price deal for Chiesa, who's in the final year of his deal. Everton could be forced to sell Jared Branthwaite below their asking price to avoid any cash flow issues. What else is on your mind before we get out of here?
Oh, nothing. Scottish League's back, so that's where you'll find me.
There you go. So that's 3 o'clock, Paramount Plus, St. John's.
Also, even though we have a month off from games, there's still Tuesday games. You can go watch Alan Carlton's glow up. Alan Carlton was really good this weekend.
Yes.
Stephen Herlock was really good.
Yes.
Coming off the bench.
Yes.
Also, if you want because I shared this take with you all, I'll share this take with everybody.
There you go.
If you want my goalkeeper take on this, Jaden Hibbert's going to end up passing Josh Cohen at some point.
Yeah,
that's my take on it. This
keeps up.
Jaden Hibbert had a howler the other night, one that he's going to want back on a bouncing ball that went off his arm and in. But he also made like 4 really, really good saves.
Yep.
And saved a penalty. And his distribution was really, really good.
He had 7 saves in the second half.
Well, yeah, his defense went to sleep on him.
Oof.
No one had a poke flute to wake up their defense for some damn reason. I don't know why. But my hot take on the goalkeeper side, man, is Jaden Hibbert's going to catch up to Cohen. Like that kid's still raw, but oh my God, the sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah. So
that's not to say that Cohen's going to be bad either. It's just that Jaden's just going to catch him.
Yeah. So the Twos, by the way, playing Toronto FC on Sunday up at the Fraction. So you have your opportunity to go catch Atlanta United 2 in their season as they try to go for a 3rd win in a row as Toronto FC, the Baby Reds, come to town. And that'll be on the network on Sunday night. So once again, thanks to everybody who came in this morning. Thanks to Abe, who came in on tape. Thanks to Bart, who came in live. And the word is that the SO is okay. You heard the coughing in the background. But yeah, the SO is okay. And so that we do, in fact, know. So tomorrow we'll be going through stuff. That's the official term. We got a lot of things to talk about this week. We got the UPSL championships in Pennsylvania this weekend. We've got Tyler dropping by on Wednesday. Hopefully Dylan Butler can join us on Wednesday. We've got Nino and Nico joining us in hour number 2 on Thursday. We've got Beyond Goals hanging out with us on Friday. We'll get you ready for the weekend, what's going on there. And maybe some folks in some different new places talking to us on Friday as well. So it's going to be a busy week, as it always is here on the morning show. And we'll let you know everything that is going on the planet when it comes to the sport of soccer. Thanks for putting up with me in my coughing fit. It means that I have to go to the ENT because I did not make it out of the summer alive. 2 summer colds back to back mean that I am going to have to go visit the ENT. So yay me. Just in time for American football season. So, Jarrett, whistle us out of here. We'll go back at it again one more time.